I'm working on this John Deere 110 garden tractor. This is part 25 of a multi-part series. In the last video, I cleaned and installed the mower deck. Now I'm going to try to adjust the deck so it's parallel to the ground. First, make sure all the tires have a normal amount of air in them. If you have a flat tire, the deck will be too close to the ground. I have it on a fairly level surface. The front's lower than the rear, and the driver's right side is lower than the driver's left side. Now you're looking towards the rear of the tractor. That lifting bracket on the driver's right side is not adjustable, but this one on the driver's left side is adjustable, and that's what I'm going to adjust to get the deck level from side to side. I'm going to pull this clevis pin and unscrew the clevis some. I want to raise the deck some so the wheels aren't touching the floor. Then I'll pick a place to measure to the bottom of the deck. There's a wheel on both sides, so I'll measure just in front of the wheels. This left side is 3.5 inches, and the right side is 3.25 inches. I'm going to lower the left side just a bit more. Raise the deck so the wheels aren't touching the floor. Now this left side measures 3 5/16, and the right side measures 3 5/16. I'm going to leave it there. Here's the lock nut for that clevis. Looks like nobody ever used it. You need that to keep the clevis from moving out of adjustment when the mower deck's not mounted. Need some WD-40 on that. Okay, that'll work. Now a flat washer and a spring clip for that clevis pin. That looks a lot better from the front. Now looking at the side, the front is still hanging low. So I need a place to measure the deck again. But here's a place where the deck has a step in it. That's going to throw off my measurement. In the front's where I need to measure now. And hey, there's a glob of weld hanging down there. And it's almost the same size as that step I was worried about. I'll measure to the bottom of that. And I'll measure the back just in front of the wheel here. That'll be pretty close. When you're mowing, those rear wheels should dictate the minimum height of the cut. So I'm going to lower the deck. This wheel's touching the floor but not supporting any weight. This wheel's not touching the floor. Well, yes it is. Just barely if you wiggle it. I want to make sure both sides are adjusted the same. This looks like it's in the third hole. And the one on this side's in the third hole also. Now I want to measure to the floor. In the back it's 2 5/16 inches. And in the front it's 2 inches. I'm going to adjust these clevises to make the rod shorter. That should raise the front of the mower deck. Yeah, that don't feel right. It's barely moving, but it don't break free. That nut's seized on there or something. I hope I didn't twist the threaded rod. I'm gonna have to put some heat on it. Maybe I can tighten it back up. That's not moving at all. I wonder if the other side will come loose. No, that's pretty tight too. Okay, I gotta go take that front bracket off. Gotta lower the deck to take the pressure off of that bracket. First I'll try to break it loose without any heat. The nut's turning a little bit, but the clevis is stuck hard on that threaded rod. On this side, I could barely move that nut with a wrench, but this clevis is already loose, so that's good. I don't want to mark up the clevis with my pipe wrench. I can use an open-end wrench instead if I keep it in this area. I'm going to use a MAP gas torch on each side and concentrate the heat at the base of the clevis. That feels like it's going to work. I want to make sure I can get this nut also. That feels okay. Now I need some heat on this other nut. Feels like that's gonna work. I need to turn off my torch. That other torch already died. Wasn't much gas in it. There's no rust under that nut. It's stuck on the yellow paint. On this side, there's a lot of crud on the threads. I'm going to clean that off. It's still too hot to touch for very long. I'm going to clean up these threads and see if the nuts go on. The nuts won't go past that paint there, so I need to clean that out. I'll use a threading die. That part's okay. Now for the clevises. That top one feels good. This bottom one don't work so well. I'm gonna run a tap through that. I don't want to clamp on this round part. I need some scrap metal so I can clamp on the flat part. Now I'm going to put grease on the threads. The one on that side looks like it's adjusted about like it was before. The one on this side needs to come in some. When I raise that up and look at the side, the front's still hanging lower, so I'm going to shorten them. The bolt won't go in on this side. I'll adjust this arm shorter so the hole lines up better. That looks better. The front's still a little low, but I'll take it out to the other garage where the floor is closer to level and I can take measurements from the floor. First, I want to set the deck height so the wheels are just off the floor. This measures 2 13/16 of an inch in the rear, and it's 2 3/16 of an inch in the front. I'm going to shorten those front arms. That should raise the front of the deck. Adjust the deck height so the wheels are just off the ground. That measures 2 3/4 inches in the rear, and it's 2 1/2 inches in the front. I'm going to shorten the front arms some more. Well, there's no more adjustment on this side. I can only move it a little bit more. I'm going to make this side the same way. I'll turn it in until I run out of threads. That'll get a few turns out of it. Since that's as far as it'll go, I'm going to square up the clevises and tighten up the lock nuts. These should not be bolts here. They should be clevis pins with spring clips. You can't tighten the nut or you'll squash the clevis and maybe break it. I'm going to put the bolts back in for now until I get the proper clevis pins. Adjust the deck height so the wheels are just off the ground. That measures 2 3/4 of an inch in the rear, and it's 2 5/8 of an inch in the front. That's as close as I can get to having the deck parallel to the ground. Remember, all these mounting points have been broken and re-welded, so they might not be exactly where they used to be. When you're actually cutting the grass, the rear wheels keep the rear of the deck from dropping too low, but the only thing keeping the front of the deck from dropping too low is that roller on the front. That's what this step stop's for. It should be adjusted to keep the front of the deck from dropping too low. Then if you ever change the height of the rear wheels, you need to readjust the depth stop to match. I'm going to lower this until both rear wheels just barely touch the ground, and I'm going to adjust the depth stop to hold the front at that height. I want it to hit the depth stop at the same time the wheels touch the ground. Then I'll lock it in place with the wing nut. Well, that's as far as I'm going with this machine, and here's what it looks like. I took it mostly apart, cleaned what I could, fixed what had to be fixed, and put it back together. Now it runs and operates properly. So I'm going to display it at tractor shows this summer. Here's a look under the hood. Just trying to make it look like it's supposed to. Alright, that's it.